Nobody tells you what dying actually feels like. Not really. Movies show you the moment, the gasp, the stillness, the light leaving someone's eyes. But that's not what happens. What actually happens is far more complicated and far stranger, because the second your heart stops, your body doesn't.
Death, as most people understand it, is a moment, a line you cross. 1 second, you're alive. The next, you're not. That's not how biology sees it. Biology sees death as a process, a long, complicated, sequential process that begins the second your heart stops beating and continues, in some cases, for days afterward. Your body doesn't stop all at once. It stops in order. In the first few seconds after the heart stops, the brain does something unexpected. It doesn't shut down. It surges. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan monitored the brain activity of rats in the moments immediately after cardiac arrest. What they recorded shocked them. In the first 30 seconds after the heart stopped, brain activity didn't flatline. It spiked. Gamma wave activity, the kind associated with heightened consciousness, vivid dreaming, and intense perception, surged to levels higher than anything recorded during normal waking life. The dying brain wasn't shutting off. It was lighting up. Dr. Jimo Borjigan, who led the study, described the finding carefully. She said the data suggests that the brain is capable of generating more organized activity at the point of death than during normal conscious states. More organized, not less. Think about what that means. In the last moments of life, the brain may be experiencing something more vivid, more intense, more real than anything it experienced while alive. This is the science behind what people who have had near-death experiences describe. The tunnel, the light, the feeling of profound clarity. It's not imagination. It may be the most awake your brain ever becomes. But while the brain surges, the rest of the body begins its own sequence. Within the first minute, oxygen stops reaching the cells. The cells don't die immediately. They begin to panic. Without oxygen, cells switch to a backup energy system, one that produces acid as a byproduct. The acid builds. The cellular environment becomes hostile, and the cells begin to break down from the inside. Not all at once, in order. The cells that need the most oxygen die first. Brain cells begin to deteriorate within 4 to 6 minutes of oxygen loss. Heart muscle cells last a little longer. Skin cells, remarkably, can survive for several days. At the same time, something happens to the body's chemistry that most people never think about. The moment the heart stops, the signal that tells your muscles to stay relaxed disappears. Every muscle in your body contracts simultaneously. Then, within a few hours, a chemical process called rigor mortis sets in. The proteins inside muscle fibers lock together. The body stiffens, not because of death itself, but because of chemistry. The muscles are still doing something, they just have no one left to take instructions from. Between 1 and 4 hours after death, the body's temperature begins to drop, roughly 1 degree per hour until it reaches the temperature of the surrounding environment. Forensic scientists use this calculation, called algor mortis, to estimate time of death. But here is what most people don't know. The cooling isn't even. The body's core stays warmer longer than the extremities. The last part of you to reach room temperature is your core, your center. The deepest part of you holds on longest. Within 24 to 72 hours, the bacteria that spent your entire life living inside your gut, the trillions of microorganisms that helped you digest food, regulate your immune system, and keep you healthy, begin to move. With no immune system to contain them, they spread outward through the intestinal walls, into the surrounding tissue, into the bloodstream. They begin consuming the body from the inside. This is not decay from the outside in, it is decay from the inside out. Your own bacteria, the ones that kept you alive, are what take you apart. But here is where it gets genuinely strange. In 2019, researchers at the University of Alabama published a study that found something nobody had predicted. Gene activity not stopping after death, increasing.
Hundreds of genes, including genes associated with immune response, stress response, and, remarkably, genes associated with early fetal development, became more active in the hours and days after death. Some of these genes were genes that are only supposed to be active in an embryo, genes that help build a body from scratch, switching on. In a body that had just stopped. The researchers called it a genomic storm. The body, at the moment of death, appears to make one final, desperate attempt to restart, to rebuild, to begin again. It doesn't work, but it tries.
There is one more thing, something that changes how you think about the line between life and death entirely. In 2022, researchers at Yale University took the brains of pigs that had been dead for 1 hour. They connected them to a system called BrainX, a machine that pumped a specially engineered fluid through the brain's blood vessels. The fluid was not blood, but it carried oxygen and nutrients. And what happened next crossed a line that scientists are still debating. The cells responded.
Cellular function was restored. Inflammation decreased. Neurons, the cells responsible for thought, memory, and consciousness, showed signs of activity in brains that had been dead for 60 minutes. The researchers were careful to say they did not restore consciousness. They could not confirm the brains were aware, but the cells were alive in a brain that had been dead for an hour. So what does this mean for the line between life and death? It means the line is not where we thought it was. It means death is not a wall, it is a slope, a gradual process with no single moment where everything stops. The heart stops, but the brain surges. The brain fades, but the genes activate. The genes quiet, but the cells respond to oxygen an hour later. At every step, something is still happening. Something is still trying. The second you die, you don't stop. Your brain lights up brighter than it ever did while you were awake. Your genes try to rebuild you from scratch. Your cells wait, sometimes for days, for a signal that never comes. And the bacteria that spent your whole life keeping you alive begin very quietly to take you apart. Death is not a moment. It never was. It is the last thing your body does, and it does it with everything it has left.